Alright, today we're talking about Pythagorean Theorem. A guy named Pythagoras a long time ago came up with this theorem that if you had two sides on a right triangle, you can always find the third side. Right? A couple things you need to know about this is that Pythagorean Theorem only works for a right triangle. And it does not work on obtuse, it does not work on acute. It only works on a right triangle. The other thing is the characteristics of that right triangle. Right? They have two legs. The right triangle has two legs. The legs are adjacent to the right angle. They come out of the right angle. They are attached to the right angle. The hypotenuse is the longest side, and it does not touch the right angle. It's away from it. It's opposite of it. And what I tell students is the easiest way to remember it is legs are short, is a short word, L-E-G, 3 letters, short, right? And it's attached to the shortest sides. The hypotenuse is a much longer word, and it's attached to the much longer side. Right? The hypotenuse is always the longest side, and it has the longest word. Okay? That's the easiest way to remember it. Alright, write this down. This is Pythagorean Theorem. Alright, so what they do is they label the triangle, the right triangle, A, B, and C. The sides are A, B, and C. A and B are the legs. Right? It doesn't matter which one's which. This could be A, this could be B, and vice versa. It doesn't matter on legs. The only one that really matters is that C is the hypotenuse. And it has to be the hypotenuse for Pythagorean Theorem to work. Right? So make sure you're aware of which sides they give you, because they won't always ask for the hypotenuse. Sometimes they'll ask for A or they'll ask for B. Right? So make sure you're aware of which ones they're asking for. The Pythagorean Theorem is this, and it's A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Pythagoras found out that if you square the first one of the sides and add it to the other side, right, then you get a square of the hypotenuse, the longest side. How he found that out, I have no idea. But he was able to come up with this. It's a proven theory, and that's why it's taught across math, okay, because it works. A squared plus B squared will always give you C squared. Okay. Alright, write this down. So here they say find this length. They give you 10 and 24 for A and for B. Alright. We need to find out what C is. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Label them, write the theorem, and then plug in your numbers. A is 10, B is 24, C is the one we're trying to find. 10 squared is 100. 24 squared, what is 24 times 24? It's 576. 100 plus 576 is 676. To get C squared to be C, I put a radical sign over it, I square root it. The square root of C squared is C. The square root of 676 is plus or minus 26. Right, but one thing you need to notice, is there any way this could be negative 26? No, you can't have a negative distance. So we're not worried about that. Right, C must be 26. Here you've got a triangle with A is 7. B we don't know, but we do know C, and that's 15. So again, we plug them into A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now please be aware that B they're not asking for. Here they tell you, hey, we're looking for B. That makes it obvious. Excuse me. But what I did last hour, we were learning about Pythagorean Theorem in Pre-Algebra as well. Okay, it just had X here, and I said label, and I asked the students to label them on their own, A, B, and C. And every time they put this as B. Even though they were told the longest side is always C, they still put B because they didn't know what this was. Right? Don't make that mistake. Right? It doesn't matter which one they're asking for. What matters is where they are on the triangle. So 7 squared plus B squared is equal to 15 squared. So I got 49 plus B squared is equal to 225. I need to get B squared by itself, so I'm adding 49 to it, so I do the opposite. I subtract 49 on both sides. B squared is equal to 176, so I square root both sides. B, right? You can do this. Let me look. The book, right? It'll ask for you to round the nearest hundredth. So, on a calculator, find out what the square root of 176 is. It's 13.27. Right? But remember, on the EOI, they probably won't put 13.27. They don't expect you to use a calculator. Instead, they'll just put square root of 176. So I'll just leave it as that. Okay? But since your book asks for the square root, or to the nearest hundredth, then you'll need to for the answers. Okay? Any questions? All right, write this down. Okay, now what this is saying is just the opposite of what you've already learned. Hey, we learned that for a right triangle that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, what this says is if c squared equals a squared plus b squared, or the same thing, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then you know that triangle must be a right triangle. It has to be a right triangle if a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's kind of backwards of what you already learned. So what they can do is give you three sides and say, is this a right triangle or not? Well, you know which one's going to be which. You know that 16 has to be C. So you just plug in your numbers and see if it comes out equal. If it does, it's a right triangle. If it doesn't, it's not. So 9 squared plus 12 squared, we're going to see if it equals 16 squared. All right, 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144. 16 squared is 256. What's 81 plus 144? It's 225. Is that equal to 256? So is this the right triangle? No. Okay. What we're looking for is Pythagorean triples. Pythagorean triples are just three whole numbers that fit this. Okay. I'm going to give you an example of one. It's 3, 4, and 5. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 16, which 4 squared is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So 3, 4, and 5 is considered Pythagorean triple. Right? So if you see whole numbers, and there's several examples, but I don't want to ruin them all for you, but if you see those Pythagorean triples, you know that it's from a right triangle. So that's what we're looking for here is a combination, or a Pythagorean triple. What about 30, 40, and 50? Right? Well, how do you know?
Because 3, 4, and 5 are.
Well, are you sure?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's try it. 30 squared plus 40 squared. See if it equals 50 squared. Well, 30 squared is 900. 40 squared is 1600. Right? What does that equal? 2500, right? Well, what's 50 squared?
2,500.
So does 2500 equal 2500? Yes. So is this a Pythagorean triple? Yes. Is this a right triangle? Yes. Right. Any questions? Here's your homework assignment for today.